all things we've been talking about a lot today, all incredibly important. So please welcome to the stage the Chief Executive of Building People, Rebecca Lovelace.
Thank you all for coming. It's a great slot to have. I've always called it the graveyard slot, and I was told earlier on to call it the pudding slot. So you've had your lunch, now this is the pudding, this is the treat. Clicker. This is who we are. I was going to start with a little bit of audience interaction, just to ask a few questions and get a sense of who's here. And what I wanted to really find out was how many of you are working within organizations and you're doing something around diversity. So diversity and inclusion, hands up. It's actually not so easy with the lights, but loads of hands up, that's fabulous. Keep your hands in the air, or raise them again, if you are doing something with one of your peers, one of your competitors. So if you're a contractor, are you doing something else with another contractor? Or are you all operating in silos? There's a few arms going up, which is absolutely fantastic. And this is really what I want to talk about today, which is we're talking hugely about diversity and inclusion. And we know that there are people out there who would bring huge benefit to our industry. So whether we're talking ex-military, ex-offenders, women, refugees, BAME, youth, homeless, there are those individuals that want to work, and we need them. And we have an industry crying out with skill shortages. The connectivity between the two is poor. So that's Building People. You've seen our vision. What I'm not going to do is talk here about the demand problem. We all know we've got a problem. And what I'm not going to do is talk about the supply challenge, because we all know we've got a problem. And there's a bit of a theme going on here. What I'm not going to do is talk about the diversity problem. Again, we have a big problem. We all talk about it. We're fabulous about talking about it, and we're really good at not making a huge amount of sense of all the opportunities we have out there. So this is one of my favorite slides. Our designer got very upset when he had to create it because it's not aesthetically pleasing. But what we're trying to show is there are a multitude of initiatives. They're not joined up. And we're really, really good at talking about all of this. So there are however many reports that have been written over many, many years. And I should, I think, just recognize today the work that Sir Michael Latham did around partnering, the excellent report that he wrote. And this is actually referring to Mark Farmer's Modernise or Die. So we've been really, really good at writing reports, really good at acknowledging that we have a problem. But whose problem is it to fix? Who is the one that's going to fix this? So I've been working in industry now for, terrifyingly, about 17 years, developing this theme of building people, certainly for the last 5 years. And what I consistently hear from the developers, we like this, but actually we want to know the councils would embed this in their planning obligations, in their 106s. The contractors really like this. But we're sort of doing things ourselves. Actually, the supply chain would find this of interest. The supply chain say, really like this, CITB should be doing it. So my point today, we have a problem, and we need to fix it. We heard from Phil Ellis earlier on from Highways England saying we need a holistic approach. We need to come together. So today, I'm actually a little bit tired of hearing people say we have a problem. Today, I'm going to be that someone who's offering, I think, a solution to fixing the problem. So here's Building People. We are a community interest company. We are 5 small micro-organizations. We are working in a strategic collaboration with EY, so with Ernst & Young, and we have a fundamental commitment to solving that connectivity issue between people that aren't working, or indeed people who are working but who are underutilized, aren't progressing, and the industry where we have a requirement to recruit, retain, develop more people. We have 6 products, so I'll just briefly talk you through these 6 products. I always like to start with what we call work matching, because it's actually far, far more than that. So this is the recognition that we can use clever technology to match somebody to a job. Now these apps are out there. This is experienced worker to job. We take out the agencies, it sounds a bit blunt, or disintermediate the agencies, which then reduces the recruitment fees, which saves the industry money. So if nothing else, this is a cost-saving mechanism, experienced workers matching to jobs. But it's so much more than that. So we can match people to apprenticeships, to work experience, to a site visit, to a mock interview. We're matching people to opportunities. And we're not just doing this on a very high level, so looking at, for example, project manager to project manager. We're looking at what are the competencies and I'm not allowed to say skills, I get very told off. So the particular interests of that individual against their competencies, their capabilities, and what is that against the requirements of the employer. So matching on a very, very deep competency level. The mentoring piece is very close to my heart. I think potentially mentoring is the wrong word. This is, I want some help with, I want to provide some help. So we're talking here, it could be somebody coming out of the armed forces, I'm leaving the Royal Tank Regiment, I'm interested in project management, I want to move to Birmingham, because I think Birmingham's the center of the world. And then here in Birmingham, you've got, I'm ex-forces, I'm actually a project manager, really happy to have a chat. Phone call, coffee, ideally work placement, ideally moving into a job. So we have matching people to opportunities and then matching people to people. And we know that having a mentor, having a role model provides significant support to those individuals. So whether it's the female QS who can't break through that glass ceiling, or whether it's the new entrant, or even the chief exec who wants some coaching just to enable her to move forwards, we're looking to match people to support. Career planning, hugely important. Now, I met yesterday with a dry lining contractor who was not seeing all the elements of building people as so relevant. So I think it's really important to say there's a bit of pick and mix here. We are across the built environment, and we are ambitious. We recognize that with 98% of the industry being SMEs, how do people learn? How do people keep growing and engaging? So the career planning is about understanding you're here, here's somebody who's like you, and they're here. This is how you could get there. This is your nearest college, here's some online resource, here's the opportunity to learn and to grow. And we have, for example, the Institution of Civil Engineers has agreed to share all their open modules via Building People. So we have one place to go, one industry platform that enables access to diverse and disadvantaged individuals, enables the ongoing learning of existing workers and new entrants, and provides the support, and it's that continuous professional development. Now, the Learning Portal, we met with Sir John Armitt recently, very supportive, and his big question was, this is great, but how do the people keep learning and growing? So you'll hear there's, within career planning and the Learning Portal, we have some crossovers, but this is about access that information, access to the opportunities to keep growing, to progress your career. And the supply and demand analytics really comes from this observation. We all want to know what skills are needed, where and when. And all the data is out there. So CITB has its CSN data, which is for construction. And there's other data that's more in the world of engineering. To get that holistic picture of what's happening across the industry, there isn't one place that provides that for the built environment. So that's what we're seeking to do. And we can harvest every conversation, every interaction on the platform to then understand that if there are more conversations about electrical installation in the Northeast, we will know that. And certainly, last but not least, social impact. So this is the core and the heart of building people. This is where it comes from. There is no standard industry methodology to measure social impact. So lots of the main contractors have their methodology, but is one methodology the same as another? How can we as an industry sing our song, tell our story, and aggregate exactly what we do? The bit I really like here, because this is where my world of passion and let's make it happen mixes with the clever people who do the technology, is what we can provide is we can put the methodology to measure social impact, which is something that we will develop with industry. We're not looking to create something new. This is a mantra you'll hear a lot. We're looking to actually bring existing methodologies and make them applicable to all with the support and with industry. but we will put that methodology against the activities. So somebody using the Building People platform can automatically understand their social impact. So as an example, somebody who has, let's just say, got 2 members of staff mentoring 2 recent ex-offenders, and they are doing some site visits with the local homeless hostel, and there's lots of schools engagement. Rather than 3 different spreadsheets, 3 different phone calls, different people, how many apprentices this month, what's going on here, everything happening in the platform will be automatically gathered and evidenced to demonstrate social impact. So yes, it's a really clever, whizzy platform, and I'm completely the wrong person to sell technology to you, but it's an enabler. The piece that really, really works for me is sharing this technology with those who are doing the work on the supply side. So for example, we've referenced before Women into Construction, Bounce Back working with ex-offenders, Build Force working with ex-military. These organizations are all out there, but each of them is, I generalize, but they are always trying to secure funding, trying to secure employee engagement, and what they don't have is some technology to enable them to operate more efficiently, more effectively. So we are sharing the Building People technology to grow the networks. So women in BIM can be connected to the National Association of Women in Construction, to women in planning, to women in project management, to women on the tools, to grow that network. And from the employer's perspective, when you hear, and I think it was Darren James from Costain speaking earlier on, when you hear there's lots of organizations out there who are great to help, how do you find them? So we're saying here's one simple platform where you can access that pool of untapped talent, those diverse, disadvantaged individuals, bring them in, but then there are tools to enable them to retain and to develop. But it's not just technology. So I try and get excited about the technology, but for me, it's the ecosystem. The really core point that I need to make sure that we really do get across, we are not for profit. We are seeking to enable what is already out there. So we're not looking to create anything new. We're seeking to create one single platform that brings together all the initiatives across the industry, from the schools to the retiring worker who could come back in as a mentor, to evidence what's happening. And we're doing that within an ecosystem. So every FE college, part of the ecosystem, every private training provider, every social enterprise, we want to just bring everybody together to make sense of what is slightly confusing out there. So just to summarize, we know we can save money. So if some people are driven by the bottom line, which indeed we all are, it will save money on recruitment and operating costs. We also know that it's going to save time. Again, that equates to saving money. It's going to reduce waste. And the real focus, we are going to increase the supply of competent labor. We're going to increase diversity, and we're going to maximize socio-economic impact. So why am I standing up here saying all of this? Because we have a vision. So I've been doing this, as I say, I used to work for Lend-Lease, I've had my own consultancy. I've parked my business for the past, coming up to a year, to work full-time on Building People. We've got the team in place. We have a strategic collaboration with EY. We need a pilot. And what we need to do, we think, is no longer to take each 6 products and try and create one big whizzy pilot, but actually to evidence different pilots, how different products enable different elements of the industry to be more diverse and to be more inclusive and to evidence that. So my request to you, and I did write it really well, but it's very hard to talk and look down here, but my request is come and talk. It's not hard. It's really, really hard, but it's not hard to take that first step. It's about seeing the bigger picture. It's about being part of the solution. So thank you.
Rebecca, thanks very much. Do you want to come and sit next to me over here? We'll just stage in a second. You're talking about all this untapped talent. How much untapped talent is there out there?
Loads. Now, this is where I fail because I have an appalling memory for statistics. But we know that there are significant numbers. So off the top of my head, I do know that across the military, we have 16,000 people coming out every year. Not all of them want to come into construction or built environment, but there are significant numbers that do. I think the challenge is we've got a really poor image. Historically, we've been quite lazy, so we haven't really invested in the local supply. But if we just look at all those target groups from the people who are coming out of the prisons, from the ex-military, women, which is appallingly 1% working on the trades, that's one statistic I do remember, and the whole of the youth market, there are significant numbers. And we're not saying that this is the solution, because I think we all know that working with people who are disadvantaged means they often wouldn't be hitting the ground running. But we can't afford to keep going as we have. And I think Mark Lomas put it really well. If we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got.
Lose money, which is, everyone understands that, don't they? So with the current system then, what is the big issue? Because, people advertise for jobs, you can go in and talk to companies and so on. Where is it breaking down?
Because it's all in silos. So I think the industry is fragmented. I don't think anybody disputes that. There are different parts of the industry sitting in different places. And it works really well for, I think, the main contractors who maybe have some leverage or even the client groups that put some energy against this. But nothing sits in one place. And that, for me, is absolutely the driver behind Building People, is we're not trying to create all of these new initiatives that are out there. So when that contractor learns that what it needs to do is to engage more with particular different target groups in a new place where it hasn't worked before, how do you find them? How do you know if they're any good? How do you connect people to learning and to knowledge? If you are on the small side, it's about one place where you can access all of that.
You were talking about measuring impact there. Could you go into a bit more detail on that? How will you assess, in fairly simple terms, how effective it's been?
So in terms of the social return on investment, this is starting to gain real traction. And I use the analogy that many years ago, health and safety became more important, and then environmental sustainability. And we're now looking at social sustainability, social inclusion, equality. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't measure it, you don't know how effective you've been. And the methodologies to measure it, so to understand your social return, it's relatively straightforward in that X activity equates to Y amount of money. So for every ex-offender who comes out of prison and finds a job and doesn't reoffend, there's a significant sum, which obviously I've forgotten, which is not then going back to the taxpayer.
You've basically been doing it for a year, you say, and you've come to events like this and so on. What sort of reaction have you been getting from people?
I get universal reaction of, this is fantastic, this is exactly what the industry needs, we just need one single place where it all sits. The elephant in the room is CITB, and I think it's important to address the elephant, because the response I get is, why would we pay for this when we're paying our levy to CITB? Our philosophy here is that what we're doing is not competitive. We spoke with CITB to say we would like to drive traffic to Go Construct. We would like to enable Go Construct to achieve its aims a little bit more easily through the capabilities we bring, and we would like to support CITB to do that. And our offer to CITB is still there, and we have another meeting coming up. So the response is fantastic. We know that we are not going to become a grant-dependent body. So we know we can make revenue from this, whether it's selling data back, advertising space, potentially charging for elements such as the experienced worker job matching, because all that money coming in goes into the community interest company, which then powers the rest of Building People. So people love it. We just need a few hands up to say, we'd quite like to pilot it, please.
Yeah, you talk about this next step. Let's finish on that. What does that mean? Do you need to raise some money to go put a pilot together in practical terms? So
the next step is I walk down from here and I get business cards thrown at me from organisations who say, we'd actually like to pilot this. We've done our costings. We believe that EY is going to invest some resource and time into growing the proposition. We need an element of money for the remaining 5 organisations, which, as I say, is on a not-for-profit basis. But it's really to come in and say, what are your pinch points? What are your blockages? What are you particularly interested in? Because that's how we will then shape the model. That if your focus is on women, then we'll bring together all the women's groups that we know and create that single network. So it's hearing what is it, what are the problems, how can we support that? But it is about showing some leadership, to be honest, and moving from this, we have a problem, we know we have a problem, but we're doing great, to saying this is actually the industry's issue and we're going to come together around that problem.
Rebecca, thank you very much for coming along today.